Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Ball Agenda Review Show. Joined, as always, on my left by Chinedu Asinugo, on my right by Emeka Wani. How you guys doing? How you, Emeka?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to it.
Chinedu, what's popping?
Yeah, same. Looking forward to talking football today and you're doing well as well.
All right, awesome. So we'll start with a little review of the past Premier League game week, which is really long and still ongoing, but we've seen some really good results. I'd like to highlight some people here thought Big Sam was out of his depth. So we saw him pull out 3 points, a very difficult ground. I don't know if you have any takes or thoughts from that game.
Yeah, I watched that. Yeah, it was really interesting. In terms of crowning Big Sam for that, I don't know. Wolves have won, I think, 1 in 9 at the moment, so I wouldn't go, I wouldn't go too crazy because they've been in terrible form. But yeah, shout out to West Brom. They had goals in them, and they scored two penalties. But the reason they got those penalties because they actually went forward in numbers, which I was surprised with. Nobody, you know what to expect with Big Sam. Two banks of four, and try and capitalize on set pieces.
So who
But
do you credit for that?
they actually so that's what so yeah, I credit him for that. But in terms of crowning him, saying oh they won at a very difficult ground and you know that we doubted him. Again, Wolves have been in terrible form. They've only won one game in nine. One game in they've only won 1 in 9, and they've been having a very poor time. And you can tell that they're really low in confidence and not actually that far off relegation where you see Fulham's games in hand. So I credit Big Sam for the win and for the fact that he was actually brave because it's the biggest game for those two teams. Wolves and West Brom are it's called the
Black Country.
back country derby. So fair play to him, and I was very impressed to see him go forward in numbers, and his bravery paid off.
And I actually thought about it yesterday when I was walking back from somewhere. But I think Wolves are too good to be dragged into a relegation battle.
Yeah, you know they
I know
wouldn't
it's
be.
easy to say that, but when you look at it, like they're actually.
No, yeah, I agree with that. I'm just saying, this Wolves team, I wouldn't. Like I said, I wouldn't say, oh, because Big Sam won that or some, masterclass. Of course, you have to give him credit, but there's still doubts, obviously, with his approach and if he's going to be able to sustain them. But yeah, credit to him yesterday.
Chinedu, thoughts?
Yeah, I was just going to say, kind of like I said, I'd be quicker to credit the players and their attitude towards the game rather than, Big Sam's tactics per se. Because typically he's going to set up in a defensive shape, and it all came down to the quality of Martins Pereira and Diangana as well. So I think, credit to the players.
Diangana is actually out. So
Yeah.
going through why you should credit Big Sam. I don't know if I'll be able to pull it up quickly enough, but they were without about 6 key players, without Gallagher, without Diangana, without Carlan Grant, who is their striker, which is goals, without Sam Johnston, who is their number one keeper, and about 2 other players. So basically, he was playing a team, a B side, and one away to Wolves. So I I really have a problem with not crediting him for that result because
He
he's
definitely
without most of his team.
he definitely deserves credit for the result because again it's the biggest game of their season. And I
Yeah.
said for me the particular game and his approach, like I thought he would again it was technically a difficult game even though they're not in the best form. But I was impressed that he actually so I do disagree sorry with Cheney do that because he actually gave those guys license to run and he spotted a weakness in the Wolves team. They played a different formation. They played four at the back this time. Obviously, they don't have their main threat up front. There was no Podence. And I thought he definitely did capitalize because they defended well, but they also actually gambled, which I don't usually associate with Big Sam in those kinds of games. So I give him credit for that. I'm just saying in terms of like he just lost 5-0 to Leicester not long ago, lost another big derby game by 3 the other day. So I'm not going to go too crazy. But of course, he deserves credit for yesterday. But in terms of whether he's the right man for the job or if it was the right decision to hire him over Bilic, then I wouldn't go that far. But 100% credit to him for winning that game yesterday.
Awesome. Moving on to the next game that was pretty interesting, Leeds Brighton. A lot of people pipped Leeds to go crazy and score a lot of goals, especially FPL. A lot of people use their bench boosts on Leeds assets on their bench, thinking that they would go big. But before the game, I kind of thought it'd be tight because both teams are really they're the archetypal naive team that will just try to play everyone. and Brighton went at Leeds away, and they were rewarded for it. And actually watching the game, I don't know why the Ellen Road pitch looked it just looked horrible. I don't know if that was something recent, but it looked bad. Leeds never really got into it. Bamford didn't have a sniff. And I think as credit to Graham Potter sticking with his principles and finally getting a win, because he was beginning to come under pressure. What do you think, Chinedu?
Yeah, I think on the balance of the day, well deserved win for Brighton. Typically, Leeds would always have possession, and they did in that game as well. But like you said, I think it's set up for a very interesting game because both are naive and both like to play the same pattern regardless of who they're playing. So I think Graham Potter deserved the win of the day, and they got it. So I think
Mecca, what do you think?
Yeah, it was an interesting one to watch. Again, like we said about the two teams liking to play. And the goal Brighton scored was sensational. It was one of the best build-ups of the league this season. It was very, very, very well worked. And they actually raised the question to me because, yeah, we do say they both play well, but Graham Potter doesn't obviously get the hype that Bielsa does. And you can say rightly so because Bielsa had experience. And Ronaldo, I think Ronaldo scored. Okay. So yeah, with his experience and all that. But the question, you have to raise the question, who actually plays better? Because Leeds, yes, is very, very gung-ho, very, very, they play man for man, literally. So it's something we've never seen before. But like seeing that game and just watching the different patterns. Again, I'll probably say Leeds just pip it by a bit, but I think Graham Potter definitely deserves a bit more credit than he's getting, just because obviously they're in a bit of a difficult moment at the last few games. I think they've been struggling. They've only won maybe like 2-3 games all season, so they definitely are a bit naive in certain situations. But it was very good to see those good patterns plus that solidity they had against Leeds. And I don't know if it was the pitch that was an issue, or maybe they say Bielsa's teams might get a bit worn out in the second half of the season. So we'll see about that. But credit to Potter, and for me, just raising that question: who actually plays better football?
Yeah, and just a quick note on West Brom again. They were also without Townsend, who has been a revelation for them at left back, and there was one other person I can't quite find. But just a quick note on, I think it was a really good result for them, and it's getting interesting at the bottom, especially now that Sheffield. I don't think we spoke in time to. Or did we? I don't think we spoke in time to go over that game, but now that Sheffield have a win on the board, it's getting interesting at the bottom. West Ham, Burnley. Thoughts on that, Chinedu?
Yeah, Antonio. Antonio. Back. Haller is gone now from the side, obviously, and Antonio just coming back from injury. I think the game before he played, I think maybe 31 minutes. And so he was always kind of, getting back to fitness. But I think when he's fully fit, he's one of the top, not based on just sheer quality, based on what he brings to a team like West Ham. He does his job and he does it well. Harries the defenders and he gets his goals. So I think well deserved on the day. I think West Ham are showing game after game their defensive solidity and the work that Moyes has done. And so big ups to them for that win. Inter is up.
Yeah, Vidal.
Here we go.
I remember, and I'll be very. I won't even say much. I won't say anything. I'm keeping. This is my keeping quiet period. Thoughts on West Ham Burnley, Emeka?
Yeah, for me is again a great win for David Moyes and West Ham, and another clean sheet. Again, Antonio, we've discussed the whole Haller Antonio thing. You can say any of the week Haller has more technique, more quality on the ball, but Antonio is definitely far more effective for this league and for that team the way they play. And he's turned into an all-round center forward at the moment. The link-up play is actually very good. Again, it's not the most polished, but he gets into those positions. Doesn't always finish, but he gets into those positions. He runs hard for the team. He allows you play a system where you can sit back and you can counter, which Haller could never do. And Haller didn't use his size effectively enough for me as well. So credit to Antonio. You could tell he was dead on his feet at the end of the game after not playing much of late. But yeah, another solid win for West Ham who keep going.
Yeah, it was very interesting. They tried to hold on for long periods in that game, which was very surprising. Well, like you're right, Antonio allows you to play that system and take on that pressure from Burnley, because really Burnley bringing on playing with people like Dwight McNeil and Westwood are probably the only two people that can kind of really do anything on the ball. And so when they just sit back like that, I think Burnley will really just want set pieces. When you just sit back in that kind of low block, Burnley are just going to hoof the ball into the box, and people like Ogbonna, that's their bread and butter. So I think it worked out well for David Moyes. And although Burnley had a lot of possession, it didn't really look that threatening. So good. Say that again.
So yeah, they huffed and puffed, but like I think West Ham were fairly comfortable.
Yeah. Chelsea Fulham, very strange performance from Chelsea. I don't know what you thought about the red card. I thought it was a bit harsh, and I thought it kind of killed the game in the first half. And I was very surprised at the end of the game to see Chelsea taking the ball into the corner against 10-man Fulham and really not looking like they could beat 10-man Fulham with an entire half of football. So that was disappointing. Saw some bad misses from the front players. And it's funny how things come back around, because there was the time when everyone talked about Mason Mount being teacher's pet and Lampard's son, and he's basically just been carrying the team. So I can't imagine Chelsea without Mason Mount, and they all wanted him out. So thoughts on that, Emeka?
I echo a lot of what you said. You could tell it's more of a confidence thing, I think, with Chelsea at the moment.
Yeah.
You could tell confidence was very low. And instead of the red card, it definitely wasn't going to be overturned. And with the force that he went in with, and like he was a bit reckless. So, I mean, I could see it. It was like an orange, I would say. You know how they say it's like an orange card. So I would say I think that was fair enough. It's definitely not going to be overturned, and it was definitely endangering the player somewhat. But so I don't think it was exceptionally harsh or anything. It was just, it was called that way on the day, so fair enough. But overall in the game, Fulham like
quick question. So what do you then say for the Shaw incident at Burnley?
The reason I'll say the Shaw one was just because, first of all, if he had been called a red card like this one was, I wouldn't have said it should have been overturned, if you get what I'm saying. So
okay.
My point is more that way.
Okay.
So if it was called that way, then I would be screaming. But the reason why, I guess, again, that was like a bit of an orange, where he kind of touches the ball first, then his leg, the momentum, his leg, whatever. So if it was called a red, I would be like, I wouldn't be screaming for it to be overturned. But in terms of the game, Fulham played really well, and the Robinson left back as well was sensational, making those runs.
For
and
44 minutes.
Cavallero missed that big.
Yeah, and it's annoying how against Spurs he goes and pulls off and now he has a free simple goal right in front of the post, less than 12 yards out.
Exactly.
So those are the sorts of misses that can secure relegation.
Yeah, I was very very impressed with Fulham on the day, and with Chelsea, for me, it's more of a confidence thing. And I too said this yesterday about Mount, and I've been one of his biggest advocates. I love the guy. I just love he plays with so much personality. He takes responsibility.
Game in, game out.
Yeah, he plays so much personality. You see, like the likes of Havertz still adjusting, obviously, but there's like an intensity in everything Mount does. Like he presses every pass, every shot. You tell he plays with a lot of conviction and passion, and he's a damn good player as well, versatile. And he came up trumps for them again when you see they had almost 200-300 million pounds on the bench. And again, is their academy kid who got castigated a lot last year that is saving them.
And this year. So credit to Mount himself. But Chelsea, you can tell, it's a confidence thing, and they play Leicester away on Tuesday, which will be very, very, very important game. And, I think Chelsea can win that game.
I don't know if you guys saw Werner's miss at the end as well again.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
The confidence, the team is just very low on confidence. The manager is as well. He brought in a lot of players. He said he brought in Rudiger, Aspi, Giroud, all of them, just because they have personality and that experience. So you can tell the team is in a bit of a low moment. So, yeah.
And for him, I mean, you talk about Leicester game, and that's a game they can win, and we would hope they should be winning, based on, I mean, the quality of players they have. But their confidence is so low. Leicester is on the other end, where they believe in their football and they're getting the results as well. So I think Leicester actually wins that game. But yeah, against a 10-man Fulham, you would expect that Chelsea runs away with it. And huge credit to Fulham, who have turned their season around totally. I remember maybe a month ago or a month and a half ago, and FPL, if you're playing Fulham, everyone's gonna throw those players in the team. But now they have a lot of personality about them and they're actually playing football. And so now, like you said, it's getting very spicy at the bottom, and we're going to see.
I'm genuinely excited. The 3 points
Yeah.
for West Brom makes
Correct.
everything, and for Sheffield United. Sheffield United might just have left it too late, but the way they've played in their last 2 games, I feel like they can start to pick up some points, but it might be too little too late. But it's very interesting at the bottom. And even the win from Brighton now puts pressure on those teams at the bottom to keep pace. So, and Burnley have 2 games in hand. So it's very interesting at the bottom.
Yeah.
Thoughts? What were you about to say something?
No, I was just going to say the next few game weeks will be very important for Sheffield, especially. They can rack up a few points in the next 2 game weeks then. Whenever they play.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What do we think? Leicester, Southampton. Southampton, late tragic news about the positive test for Danny Ings. So you already kind of knew what that would do for team morale and in terms of just their going forward. So that's big players, some of the big players that have really been important for them this season. Ings, Vestergaard, those types of people through the spine of the team. I think Southampton were already up against it after the amazing result at Liverpool. I watched the game. There wasn't really much in it. But Leicester found a way, as they have been doing lately, and at home, which is a rarity. So maybe they've turned the corner in terms of their home form. And as you said, there's a big home game next for them. So that'll do them a world of good in terms of confidence. But thoughts on the game, Emeka?
Yeah, exactly as you said. There was not much in that game at all. If anything, Southampton were pretty dominant at the start. They pressed well. They forced Leicester into a lot of unforced errors, long passes as Leicester do, trying to get that final ball to Vardy a bit too soon sometimes. But Southampton pressed very well, and they had some decent moments here and there. But like you said, without their main man, they were a bit toothless. Shea Adams tried, as he normally does, puts himself about, but that quality was just a bit lacking. And James Maddison has that in spades, and he showed that with that great finish at the end of the first half. And the second goal, you know what happens when the team is chasing, and Leicester are the perfect team, as well as United. Leicester and United are the best 2 teams when it comes to those situations where a team is going gung-ho for the goal and you just pick them apart. So again, it was a very mature performance from Leicester. I think that's the word I'll use. Very mature. They looked solid and they waited for their moments and they picked them off very well. So the Chelsea game, I think, will be a huge test, and we can see how they.
Very big football conversation.
I just want to add to that. Leicester this season have had a lot of mature performances. So this is, and I remember last time when I was asking when do we start talking about Leicester as a serious competitor, the top 4 in the race for Champions League. But yeah, they've had a lot of mature performances, and I think they believe in their system. A lot of times they're going to sit back and kind of absorb the pressure and hit you on the counter. And I'm so happy to see Maddison back, because I'm back and playing very well. Because I've always thought he was a quality footballer, and I think he should have a place or have a say in the English team as well. So I think it's one of those things where
what kind of say?
You said what kind of say? Yeah. I think when you talk about the middle of the park, Maddison should be in there. I'm not saying he should be starting, but I think he should be in there, and he hasn't had that say in a while.
That's high praise. The middle of the park is a tough place to get in England.
Yeah, it is. But if you have it, I mean, it depends on what kind of system you're trying to play.
You mean what formation? Because
exactly. If you have one sitter.
Yeah, because it just unfortunately they don't play that number 10 enough. But
if they did, it wouldn't be Maddison.
Yeah, exactly. So he won't play centre mid, because right now centre mid is like you still see guys like Harry Winks playing CM4.
Exactly.
But like if they play like a 10, then of course like Maddison and Grealish are England's 2 most creative like central players. So he should definitely be in and around the team. But like I wouldn't say he should start. But
and that's what I'm saying. That's kind of my point.
He definitely has the quality to.
Based on his quality, I would like to see him, a bit.
Because this is even an England team that Dele Alli out of form. Like that's also someone in the 10 role that if he's playing football is going to be above Maddison in the pecking order.
I don't think so.
If he's playing week in, week out.
But there's a reason he's not playing. So
that's what I'm saying. But in the pecking order, if and we heard Mourinho say Ali time is coming. So if Ali starts to play week in, week out and gets back into the team, there's just that pedigree the same as we mentioned for people like Ings already in the team when it comes to people like
But
those.
but let me ask you this actually.
To this
That'll make
level.
it difficult for Madison.
Forget the England thing right now because you've come up with something I'd like to ask. So do you think Ali can break into the Spurs team as is? Who does he displace?
I think the last time Ali played, he was very impressive, and the manager noticed that, and now he's back in the conversation.
As a replacement for Ndombele?
I think he's going to PSG on loan.
If he doesn't go to PSG on loan this month, but I think he's back in the conversation. The performance showed it. I mean, they that gives them options in the midfield. Like Spurs have yet to play. Like when you think of Lo Celso and Ndombele, it's not a displacement or replacement conversation all the time. Mourinho has said there are certain games that he would like to play both of them when they get to full fitness and have a bit more going forward. So he could easily play an Ali and Ndombele midfield, Ali Lo Celso, Ndombele, Ali, like something along those lines when they're trying to break down those teams that sit back a bit more. The reason why I don't see Leicester as title challengers is the same reason or Leicester, I'd say, have the same problem that Spurs have right now. Their form against the big sides is incredible, but they just drop lots of stupid points against teams that they should be beating. Spurs against the big sides, I think their only defeat was Liverpool, if I remember correctly. And Leicester, remember, they beat Man City, they beat Arsenal, they beat Spurs, they drew with United. So why are they not top? They drop stupid points and especially they're always one or two players away from just looking completely horrible. And that's typically, and we know we had this conversation about best players and taking your best players out, but I think it's much worse for Leicester. Like you take one piece out of that and they just look horrible.
Yeah, that's what happened last year. Unfortunately, they couldn't sustain it. Once you lose a few pieces. It will definitely be the conversation, top four conversation, but title, I don't see it.
And that game next week is big for that top four conversation.
Against Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's a big one for sure.
Lampard is still under pressure, I'd say, even though this win, because this one was not convincing.
I think if it is Leicester, it could be tricky. It could be very tricky. And it'll be ironic because Mourinho lost his job at Leicester, like when Chelsea lost to Leicester. Funny enough as well. So it's
always the Chelsea connection undertones because Ranieri had that Chelsea connection. Yeah. Rodgers has that Chelsea connection. Yeah. So it could be. Spurs today. Thoughts on that? I think finally got a bit more of what we've been crying out for. When you score, don't just allow the other team come on you and take stupid points off you. Spurs scored again, got pegged back, and still went forward and scored again. Those were the types of, and looked like they wanted to score more. And those were the types of, and that is the type of performance against the weaker opposition that Spurs have been struggling to put together and being content with one or two goals and sitting back. So I think this was a really, really improved performance in terms of playing against those weaker sides. And the finish both finishes, one from Kane, very fantastic taking the ball and missed 4 players, beating them, stroking into the bottom corner, and Ndombele with probably my favorite goal this weekend. But thoughts on that, Emeka? Yeah,
no, so exactly. So what I've been saying, and I put it in the group chat as well, I've been saying this for months, and it happened again this week against a Fulham team at home, which is inexcusable. But yeah, this time, like I said, they got the second goal. And again, sometimes football is tricky. It's fine margins because against Fulham, they could have got a second, right? And they would have been
many times.
Exactly. Yeah. So this game, for instance, if they didn't get a quick second goal, how do we know how the game would have gone? So it gave them that cushion, and they did capitalize on it. Obviously, they got pegged back, but they capitalized and they won the game fairly comfortably. But yeah, for me, just tactically, just watching Spurs, I like focusing on these things, and it's just interesting to really so how we say the whole false 9 and 10s and all that, and like Son is how we say best left winger in the world. Like Son is actually a striker now. If he's literally, because the whole time, and Sheffield United left so much space in behind. And it seems so basic that, okay, Harry Kane is slower, he drops a bit deeper, he's always finding the passes. But at first, I thought it was a pattern, or play that they were using. But right now, it's literally like almost like Kane is a number 10 and Son is like it changes. I know it's not as simple as that because I know he's a center forward that brings people into play, but more often than not, he's actually almost a 10. I don't know how to explain. I don't.
Yeah, I think Kane is having his best ever season,
like the all round season,
and he's playing his best ever football. And I think he's like this is very interesting because we talked about Mbappe having not improved since the World Cup and still just doing the same old things. Kane is someone that like has just opened this other part of his game completely and has just become a better player. And thinking about the season where he kind of broke through, scored more goals in calendar year than Messi and Ronaldo, who would have thought that you would ever think Kane was being better form than that? But I'd really say that this season, all-round play, Kane is having his best season.
And it makes sense. Sorry, I'll change it before you go. And it makes so much sense because the way Mourinho wants to play, one of the things I thought wouldn't work was because and how they played last year, because they didn't do this last year. Kane was actually just up front last year, Son wide. And you saw so many games where they actually tried to counter-attack. Like I remember the United game after the restart. They tried to counter-attack. They sat deep, left Kane on his own. And a lot of times the play broke because Kane can't run. So why not play Kane a bit deeper? And, obviously the team kind of pushes a bit higher so he can still do what he wants to do. But a lot of times is that in behind run by Son, which is like what is Tottenham's most dangerous threat at the moment. And so many times, even against Fulham, Son in behind, hit the bar. So that's the way they're going to play now. And it makes so much sense for the style of play that Mourinho wants.
And the triggers, and that's the beauty for me and why I like to rewatch goals and slow things down, especially against Brentford. That second goal was really interesting because Son picked the ball up really close to the center, to the halfway line and fed it into Kane. And as soon as he did that, he just and Kane laid it off. As he was laying it off to Ndombele, you could just see Son moving like it was just almost telepathic. And it wasn't even Kane playing the final pass, but I think there's just shapes that they've worked on in training and patterns of play that it's just very clear when those triggers are and you move and you're not always going to get the pass, but when it works the way it did against Brentford, it just looks beautiful because you can just see when he notices and full speed goes Ndombele, perfect pass, and you're through on goal. And they've done it so many times this season.
Yeah, for sure.
Any other thoughts, Chinedu?
Yeah, no, nothing to add to that. I think you guys have hit on everything. And credit to Kane, honestly, just because not every striker has that passing ability that he has. And I don't know if that was a him thing, recognizing and telling the manager, hey, I want to drop back, or that's a Mourinho thing now. But that's a Mourinho thing now saying...
Why would we just not like give Mourinho credit for anything?
Who would you guys compare?
Why do we not like giving Mourinho credit for anything?
I just said I don't know if he's relaxed. Nobody's taking credit.
How someone tell the coach what he wants to do? And
he can tell the coach, hey, I would like to be dropping back in certain scenarios. I don't think I have the pace to run in behind.
It's not
that's the thing.
That's going to change his
tactics. I think if it was solely a Kane thing, I think it's definitely a Mourinho thing because they figured it out last year. Some things didn't work, especially how they want to play. So this was the way to capitalize.
You were saying, who would you compare?
Who would you compare modern day? Like the closest striker I can think. I mean, Rooney. They're still different, but I'm thinking like Wayne Rooney when he was a bit older.
Rooney.
No, Rooney did not pack as much goal threat as this. Rooney had the range of passing and played the same role. Yeah, but Kane is still scoring number 9 numbers and giving number 10 numbers. And I don't think we've seen that.
In Rooney's, but let's say like Rooney, by like 2009, 2010, Rooney was still scoring 30 and getting double-figure assists.
So no, I think you can put it this way. Kane does it the best, and he execution-wise, he's done it the best. But in terms of comparison, I think Rooney is
it's a good comparison based on that 2009, 2010 season. It's a decent comparison. In fact, that would be interesting to think about. I wonder if
Rooney did have that passing range as well.
Yeah, Rooney had that. He definitely had that.
Oh, he definitely had the passing range, and as he started to drop deeper and deeper and Kane isn't even dropping as deep as Rooney used to drop. I think Kane is and that's probably was responsible for him having better goal scoring numbers or still maintaining number 9 type goal scoring numbers. That's very interesting to think about.
The 9. Huh? Yeah, I think for the most part he still has a responsibility to be the 9, to have that presence in the box as the 9. As the years rolled on, Rooney had less of that responsibility to be the 9. Like he wasn't the 9.
Yeah. There was a 9, and then there was Rooney, and then there were true wingers.
Exactly.
Which is why I think it's a little different. It's interesting because now that I think about it, it's really difficult to think of of one person who's kind of played that role the same way.
Yeah.
And maybe that could be a topical thing that we think about in terms of strikers that have more than just nines. Yeah. What do you say?
So yeah, it's something we can discuss next week, because
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting. I'll try and research like his average positions, because right now we say like how Rooney had a 9 in front, but like right now to me it's such
Probably
an interesting.
Firmino actually is pretty close, but he's
Yeah,
just not putting up the
yeah, yeah,
9
yeah.
type
He's not
numbers. But
putting up the
Firmino is
numbers.
playing that role, I'd say,
Yeah.
because when he gets
Yeah.
that ball, Mane, Salah
Liverpool.
become basically strikers,
Yeah.
and that's what Spurs are to some extent doing.
True.
Yeah,
that's a good comparison.
What did we think about, I guess, the match that was built to be the biggest of the weekend? Ended up being one of those games that people call chess matches, where and this is why I know sometimes I sound like I have a liking for Spurs or Mourinho, but when Mourinho said the better team lost, I hope everyone who watched the game, the United game today, recognizes that if Liverpool got a late goal or something, the better team would have lost. Even though Liverpool had bags and bags of possession, had more shots, they didn't have any clear-cut opportunities. And this was exactly the end, how the game ended against Spurs, and Liverpool were lucky to have won the game. But when that was said, it was like, oh, you didn't watch the game. What are you talking about? But hopefully anyone that watched today knows what it looks like when the better team can lose, even though it still ended up 0-0. But Liverpool, we know they always find a way to get late goals, set pieces, and that could easily have happened this season and brought on Origi and started to look a little bit more threatening. But on the balance of play, they had the ball, they did nothing with it, and it was just a very disappointing watch, for especially an FPL Salah captainer, but also just in general, thinking that Liverpool are going to bounce back because they haven't scored. They scored one against West Brom, didn't score against Southampton, didn't score against Newcastle, and now haven't scored against Man United. So real problems in front, and this is another thing. So I said I'll hold on what I said about Inter, because this is my keeping quiet time. What I said a couple months ago, I tweeted it. It's there. I'll pull it up later. And also what I said about Liverpool, I'll hold on. But I said something a couple months ago, and people said I was deluded. So I said they're going to be found out in January. They're like, I said this style of play can't keep going. They said, oh, you said everybody says that every season. Like, give us a time when it'll stop. I said in January, you'll see that they've been found out. The fact that they just pop the ball around and don't have any incisiveness and just keep crossing the ball, hoping for the best. And ever since I said that,
it's been working for 3 years now.
So why did I say it was going to stop now? Because
that's
I've seen the signs.
It's just I don't. So you just
no one. There's many signs. One, people like Mourinho showing the blueprint for how to play against Liverpool and frustrate them and look like the better side at Anfield. 2, fatigue, the fact that they've been doing it for 3 years with the same players and haven't really strengthened. And 3, injuries this season. Like they've been very lucky to have not lucky, a credit to Klopp, because that might be an oversimplification. They considered 11 goals in the first, I think, 3 or 4 games with Van Dijk, and since he's been injured, it's 10 in 14. So they've had a much better defensive record, even with those injuries at the back, but also injuries in the team have meant that kind of high pressing midfield and the system that they always play has been kind of affected a bit. And those are the little changes that on paper you still see a pretty strong side. Oxlade-Chamberlain, Shaqiri, Curtis Jones, and think that these players can come in and Thiago's basically who is strengthening, and think that those players can come and plug in the gaps left by people like Henderson and Wijnaldum when he's out of the side, and Fabinho who's dropped into defense. But those are just the list that I just gave are the reasons that I had for thinking that this was not sustainable. And obviously after I said that, they beat Palace 7-0, and I looked like I was completely saying nonsense, but that was also an outlier game, and Liverpool have serious attacking problems now, and it's coming to light, and teams are no longer as scared as they used to be before, because that was another thing. Teams were just missing big chances. Liverpool used to concede some great chances, and teams just didn't have the confidence to finish, and teams would just sit back and not think that they could get anything from the game. But as you've seen in the past few weeks, and Southampton and United today, teams now smell blood. And if you're going to take points off of Liverpool this season, now is the time before these players come back. So that's my quick, not so short answer for why I said January. I think they would start to show those cracks, and it's happening. And I know I said I was going to say it, but because Emeka asked, but I'm going to keep mute on that to the end of the season. But thoughts on that, Emeka?
On the game, in terms of your first point about people saying the best team lost if they had scored, I think again, football is about fine margins, and you know that. A Mourinho masterclass is one goal away from being a turgid 0-0 draw. You know how it is. So
Yep.
you can get credit both ways. And today, if United had nicked it, it would have been an absolute masterclass. You know what I mean? So and now, it's like a disappointing kind of draw. Overall in the game, anyway, first of all, actually the Liverpool point. I get your point. I do feel something I also tweeted was when I watch Liverpool play and their front three, I see a lot more. Like they used to move a lot with a lot more instinct. Like now I see a lot of touches, a lot of extra touches that don't need to be made.
Salah could have just played. There's a ball that came into him on his left. We could have just hit one time. He took a touch. I was so confused about why, and then he got crowded out.
So I've been noticing that, like Mane, all of them, they're not moving as instinctively as they used to. Even last season, they played fairly well, but their numbers weren't superb. But like the year they got 97 points, got to the Champions League, won the Champions League, that year they were flying. And so I'm just noticing, I guess, like you said, they're slowing down, and it's just natural. They've been doing this for 3-4 years, so teams are kind of sussing them out somewhat, and it's just natural for your level to kind of drop slightly. But I will wait a bit longer before I make any sweeping judgments. But I mean, fair enough if you called it. But
if you think, sorry to cut you off, if you think about the best teams of all time, typically the kind of crazy domination lasts for like 3 to 4 seasons, crazy domination.
Yeah.
So that's
I see, like Firmino, and Firmino is I think is a big problem for them at the moment. But in relation to the game, I'd say so. First, Chinedu and I was speaking off air, and we're just talking like so. At the start of the game, I believed like we could nick something. Before the game started, I believed we could nick something. But when Liverpool started playing, how they're moving the ball, they're forcing so many errors, they're pressing so well, counter pressing so well, and I was like, Jesus, like we're saying, they don't have centre backs and whatnot. And ironically, again, not having those centre backs, if you're a good team, it can actually be a positive, especially at the start, because they were able to control from all phases. And it was just looking, extremely difficult. But United defended extremely, extremely well. And once from the 30th minute after, I would say United definitely was the better team for me. And we didn't win the game, but it showed me an improvement. And again, it's almost a year to the day that we lost to Liverpool last year at Anfield and looked so timid. And I noticed a team that actually believes they can achieve something this year. There were quality lapses, of course, and that's on the players, because I think the manager set the team up perfectly. And like I said, Mourinho showed that way to do it. And United defended even better than Spurs did on the day, because Maguire, Lindelof, Luke Shaw, especially, they were absolutely superb today. But the offensive lapses with Rashford, terrible decision making today. I can't even defend him. I thought Bruno got into some very good positions. You can tell he's a bit off form. But he again, even as bad as he's playing, he still could have scored 2 goals easily. So credit to United, credit to Solskjaer. I think the team is progressing. But I left the game with mixed feelings, because kind of made a very big statement. But like I said, football is just really fine margin, because one, Pogba scoring that goal, and it looks like United are title favorites. Masterclass, but it just ended up being a turgid 0-0. But on to the next.
Yeah, and I just to add to that, remember what I said about how I think it's lazy analysis that people just jump on and say Mbappe is the best young right winger. Back to what I said about lazy analysis for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Today also more complete rubbish in terms of his performance.
He's having a bad time, but I wouldn't go too hard. And like he's not having his best season so far. But I mean, everyone's allowed.
He's not having his best season. Is putting it lightly.
Everyone is allowed
a bad time.
What I will give him credit for is I think he's worked a lot on his defensive aspects. I think he looked much better defensively than I've seen him in recent times. He held his own, and he was able to not really concede a lot on his wing. But offensively, I think we spoke about it off air as well. Emeka and I was that whole cross and inshallah thing is overplayed by Trent, and it's getting very
he was just kicking the ball.
When you see Robertson gets in those positions, and fair Robertson a lot of times is more advanced in the position he gets into. But he does more than just a random cross into the box. Trent gets the ball out wide. He doesn't look in. He doesn't do anything. He just whips the ball in.
And this isn't new because Trent has always been a deep crosser. So Robertson is always going to get more advanced.
He's always going
but it just looks like he's kicking the ball. And even just defensively, I saw him give away a cheap corner, put the ball out to play needlessly.
Yeah, I mean, those errors will come.
Like, he just kept making errors that were just confusing to me.
I think he was fairly, like, offensively, he was a bit careless, but I think he was fairly solid. And like we mentioned, again, you can't overemphasize the fact not having Van Dijk and Gomez, how much it affects those guys, because those guys, it's almost like, you know how we say when you have to go at the back, that you can let your two wing backs, go forward because you have that protection. But like Gomez and Van Dijk literally was like
essentially were those three at the back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Trent and Robbo like didn't have to think. And so and obviously Trent is just having he's just not in the best moments. But the quality is there. Just also the front three not taking chances. But his passing from the back is also sensational. Not even just crossing, because there are a few times, even from just the center back position, he just he pinged one ball to Salah that Luke Shaw handled fantastically well. So again, he's 22 years old and he's been fantastic. So I just don't like the modern football fans today. It's just how it is. A young player has been sensational. Nobody said like he's the best of all time, but he's been the best right back in the world.
Do you think people said he was better?
But he was the best right. He was the best. He was
better than Danny Alves.
He was
relax.
Did you not see that?
Those are extremists.
Liverpool fans will say that, obviously, but that's not accurate. But he's been the best right back in the world for the last 2 years or whatnot. So he's having a bad time. So I don't know why we're always so quick to want to, be like, oh, this person overrated. Like, I know now Bruno is having a bad month. I can guarantee you the next narrative is going to be he's overrated. It's like that's just how football fans are, and it shouldn't be like that way. If his performances drop for another year, that is like okay, you can only you're only as good as your last few games or last year or whatever. But he's having a bad time at the moment, not having much protection, and Liverpool are not conceding goals. He's just not getting crazy assists anymore. Yeah. So. Let's just relax. He's 22 years old, man. So let's see.
I have a few thoughts on the game, but I'll just say two. Number one, Thiago, he looked very good in the midfield today.
First half.
In the first half, yes, but even in the second half, I think Fred just did not do a good job defending him at all. Kind of got turned a lot, got outclassed in the mid. But to that point of Thiago being there, I don't think.
Ask Fayez if he agrees.
About what?
About Thiago having a good game.
Thiago looked assured on the ball, but it's back to what I was saying about Thiago is just going to help you recycle the ball. And
that's what I was going to say.
Not going to really do anything to change your attacking threat.
Today he tried. I mean, considering he was the sitter today,
and he actually did even look a bit more attacking today, beating some shots. But Thiago for me is just.
End of the day,
I think he's a luxury player, if I'm being honest, because
that's what I was going to get to was that you it's not just about Thiago, it's about the people around him and what they have to do to actually, first of all, like he can progress the ball, but you don't really want him progressing the ball. You want him maybe spraying the ball and then someone else running onto it. But anyhow, Liverpool they are very comfortable having the ball in front of the defenders and trying to work something, and they are less clinical when it comes to actually being in the box. Like if you compare them to a City, if they had as much possession as they did today, I think City would have gotten a goal. And because they would have worked it into better chances, better chance creation. That's what Liverpool doesn't really do very well, it seems, especially at the moment. So kind of like what you said, on the balance of play, if you're looking at just the stats, they had more possession, they had probably, a lot more passes, a lot more touches of the ball. Because I remember they were saying, Thiago had 63 touches of the ball. That's fine and good, first half. But balance of the day, United had the better chances easily, and they could easily have gone United's way. Easily. I don't remember Thiago's shot. I don't remember a hard save DDG had to make. And even Thiago's shot, it was a very theatrical save, which he didn't really have to make. But I think United definitely, as a United fan, it's sitting and saying, I'm happy with the point, kind of like what Emeka said, but
mixed feelings,
you say, we could have definitely come away with all three today.
Like, this is the time to beat Liverpool. When you play them at Old Trafford, they might not be as depleted or in this run of form.
I get that, and I get that everyone's so okay. If we had lost, would have been called frauds. then we didn't win. That is like this was the time. It's like I get that there was an opportunity there, but there's a reason to
It's
why.
a fantastic. No, you're misunderstanding.
No, but there's a reason.
It's a fantastic point.
But is
I'm
it
saying
okay?
I understand the feelings
Okay,
of disappointment. Yeah, it's a fantastic point. You going to Liverpool and getting a point means you haven't lost to Liverpool, who are probably going to be your
and they
big
won
challengers.
33 out of their last 34 at home.
Exactly.
So
Correct.
You know, it was.
I think that's it. You haven't lost,
but not including today, because I know Sam took some points off them. So, or is that the one match? That would be 33 out of 35.
Or 35. But yeah, okay, yeah, it was before. It was during the game. Sorry, during the game, it was 33 out of 34. So yeah, 33 out of 35 now. But yeah, so it was mixed feelings, and yeah, I at the end of the day, like I said, I was happy because I can see a team that actually has intent. But yeah, it just wasn't to be. But shout out to the defenders because no defenders in the Premier League. I don't think, apart from obviously Arsenal's Chuckle brothers, all them guys at the back. But all the Maguire, Shaw, Lindelof, even De Gea, like I don't think there are any group of defenders that gets as scrutinized as United's defenders, and they've been very, very good for a few weeks now. And I still think Maguire is very, very underrated, and I know I'm one of the few, but I think
underrated.
Maguire since before he came to United, people liked it, but since he came to United, he's been absolutely bashed almost every single time I like see social media, and I never think he gets credit when he plays badly. 80 million flop. When he plays well, they say, "Oh, he cost 80 million." So
I think he's one of those people. Really quick, I think he's a victim of the price tag because.
Well, statistically, he's been very, very good. Aerially, interceptions is the best in the league, and he just So he has to continue it, obviously.
Yeah, he leads the league in a lot of defensive stats. He does. So
awesome. So that's City are up 2-0, but the game isn't over. So we expect them to win comfortably, keep a clean sheet, some rotation there. So that's just.
The scored again! Wow!
Oh my goodness! Oh my
God! Scored a fantastic goal.
We're eating.
I'm done. He
scored a fantastic goal.
Jeez.
Just now?
No, the second goal was.
Wow! How did it happen?
How do I know have Stones and I have Cancelo?
Oh my days!
Little mini segments.
And I'm not going to get Stones after this.
Open your Twitter.
You know how it goes. Yeah,
you've missed it.
Yeah.
That's the annoying thing about FPL, but it is what it is. So City up 3-0, so it's going to be a very routine win.
I'm very grateful that I did not get Phil Foden really quick because he's been.
Yeah, I was so tempted. But you'll probably play next game.
Yeah, unfortunate. But that wraps up the games that have happened so far. And just to quickly highlight some results and some things from the top leagues in Europe, we can just take a look at the other four in the big five leagues and go through who we think, or contenders, but who do you think ultimately will win the league? So I'll start with Serie A. Chinedu.
Huge game going on right now, Inter Juve. And I think this one's a really tough one, especially because Milan is playing very, very well, playing very good football as well. But I think I'm going to go with the Juve, the old lady. I think they're going to still. I think no matter what happens in Serie A, Juve will always have a shout at the title. And although Inter is playing good football, so is Milan. Napoli's up there as well. But I think Juve is just now clicking, and they had not the best start to the season. But Pele is kind of finding his feet, and I think he has found his feet, and I think they're gonna win.
A lot of the time, I don't think it has to do with Juve as much as the men at the helm. No, the men at the helm. The men at the helm that won all those titles are Serie A merchants and Serie A title winners. Allegri's whole thing was winning the title. Conte's whole thing, everywhere he's been, is winning the title. So, for that, just given the reason you gave, I don't think I'd be thinking Juve, but interesting to see how you're thinking about it. Emeka, thoughts on
very tight at the top.
Yeah, I'm so happy to see Milan Milan doing well, but I'm going to go Inter. Apart from the fact that historically, in different leagues, I think most people have teams they like, and I've always liked Inter Just the blue and black, Adriano, Cambiaso, Zanetti. Like that was always my team, like Prevo, like back in the day.
Adriano was so good.
So yeah, I think Inter, like Fayam said, the Conte factor, and the fact that, especially the fact that Juve definitely they're in a transitional season, new manager, inexperienced manager, constantly changing formations, a mismatched team like today they're playing a 4-4-2, Ramsey on the left. It's just the team is just kind of they're finding their feet, and obviously Conte knows exactly how he wants to play. He knows his best team. That front line of Lukaku and Lautaro is better than, for me, than even Morata and Ronaldo, because they have more legs, and obviously not saying individually, but if you get what I'm saying, that the partnership itself, I think, and they have a gap. If they can win this game now, they will be 7 points clear of Juve, with Juve having a game in hand. But I think Conte is a league merchant, a Serie A merchant, and I think he's not. I don't think he's going to let this chance slip, because this is definitely the year, like the Premier League, where the established team is not itself, and this is the year I don't believe Conte is going to.
So you don't think Milan can hold on?
I don't think so, just because I think it's a United kind of story. They've been really good, and I'm sure now they can smell is a possibility. But again, it's just the quality of the team. Although they're adding Mandzukic now, and they added this guy from Torino, Meite, but I just think it'll be a bit too much for they have so many young players like Leao, Salmakers, Tonali, all these guys. They're all young, and I think they might fall a bit short. But they definitely should get into Champions League for the first time in a while.
And seeing those title deciding matches played at the San Siro, both Milan clubs going for it is
beautiful.
Is beautiful and
history,
and throwback vibe. So
yeah,
very, very excited about that. And next up, Bundesliga. I remember what I was going to say. The point I was going to make is, I said this when Inter went out of Champions League, that was best that they also didn't drop into the Europa League, that Conte is going to focus on what he knows best. And I guess now I've exposed the take that I gave on Twitter then, so we'll see how that pans out. But yeah, thoughts on Bundesliga?
I think Bayern. I mean, it's not been easy for them this year. There's been a bit of a drop off, like we've seen from most teams in Europe. For some reason, a lot of the best teams have dropped off, and it's just hard to maintain that consistency. Plus, we're in a weird COVID time, no fans. And yeah, it's just a weird time. But Bayern, they struggled a bit, but now they're 4 points clear. And just because, again, it's just because they're Bayern, and at this stage of the season, if they manage to get that 4 points, 4 point different, then they'll be fine. Dortmund are very inconsistent. They drew to Mainz at the weekend. They're very on and off. Leipzig, they played well, but again, they don't have the consistency to win. Mm-hmm. So I think this is Bayern's to win comfortably again.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Is the other teams are just too inconsistent, and I feel so bad, because I thought this was Dortmund's season. Kind of, their young players coming through the ranks and being acquired as well, and this is their season. They're gonna gel, but they've just been inconsistent all around, and I think it's easy for Bayern at this point, because they know the games they're supposed to win, they win. And then, the bigger games, maybe they struggle, get a tie here and there, but they win the games they're supposed to win. And that's what Dortmund doesn't do. That's what Leipzig doesn't do all the time as well. So I think
it's almost must be so frustrating. I don't know. I think
they have the talent. The talent is there in abundance.
And unfortunately, like now they got lucky to keep Sancho because no one paid. So they would have recycled him, and now this was the year, like with Haaland, Sancho, Royce, Hazard, all these guys.
Royce
is back. Going to be enough. Yeah, he's back, and it's not going to be enough. And next year they're going to. Sancho is definitely going next year, and Haaland maybe, but Haaland is definitely going the year after. So they're never going to win. They're never going to win, especially the way their model right now. So, but this
it's one of. I feel bad for them, especially because of the structure of the team. They are like a stepping stone team, and they've been.
But I think they create that culture though. Like I think it's more them that create that culture where it's like they promise these guys that we'll develop you. Bellingham, I'm sure that's what they sold to Bellingham. Not like, I'm coming here.
100%.
Bellingham would go there if they said that, if they say they're going to keep him, kind of thing. So they create that culture. So it gets to a point where you need to compete, and especially Bayern, they have their team is a bit aging, especially their defense. So you need to compete at a point. But unfortunately, that's the model they're creating right now. So I mean,
This conversation on previous number nines and stepping stone teams, I think, are really good topics that we can touch on later. Because I mean, there's one stepping stone team that's doing really well this season, but also there are also stepping stone teams like Lyon and all these places where you'll probably do okay within your league, but in terms of just Champions League for European glory, these teams end up not having enough. But you always see the quality coming through their ranks. Thoughts on La Liga?
I'm gonna go Atleti. It's going to be close. It's going to be very close. I do think there's going to be a bit of a drop off from them second half of the season. Plus Real Madrid and Barcelona are going to find a bit more consistency, and I can see Barcelona kind of figuring things out slightly. But I maybe it's a bit of hope. But I think Simeone, and especially with Suarez's form, I think they would be able to. I hope they'll be able to hold
People
on.
who said Messi was finished have not watched the last 4 games, because this guy is like he's probably hit the bar at least 10 times in those 4 games and scored enough goals to match. He looks different.
Yeah, I said this earlier. I think Barcelona were going through a rough patch, but they are going to always hit their form, especially when you have someone like Messi in the team. And
two games. Sorry, bro.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I was just going to say they're figuring themselves out. They're figuring out how they want to play. Happy for Griezmann as well. He's playing a lot better. So I think it's only up from there for Barcelona. But I think you're right. Atleti is hopefully, like you said, going to hang on to this. I'll be very happy for Simeone.
Two games in hand, and they're 4 points ahead of Madrid and 7 ahead of Barcelona with 2 games less. And Barcelona, ultimately, I don't think they have a good enough team to win it. No. Especially seeing the amounts of young players play week in, week out, a bit of a mismatched team. Obviously, Messi and Griezmann. Messi obviously is still one of the best in the world. Griezmann on his day can be world class as well. But defensively, and especially playing the likes of Pedri heavy minutes, I don't think it will be enough. So I think Real Madrid will be the main
still the best in the world. I'll correct you there.
Yeah, I have no issue with that at all.
I also find it interesting though that Atleti just added Nuta Nebeli to their ranks. That was a very, very interesting transfer.
Yeah. To replace Diego. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a good transfer.
It's a good transfer, but I was very surprised because I thought they kind of already had their front two figured out, in João.
It won't be enough over the course of the season.
Yeah, good option.
And so I think, let me put it this way, I'm impressed that they did good business like that to go out and buy someone.
Atleti have consistently always done good business, to be very fair. Like maybe you have the odd Lemar that is actually kind of now coming back into form, but didn't seem like it was working out at first. But I'm happy about how he's coming back into form. But Atleti seem to always like they're
very prudent
like
as well.
Hernandez, Lodi comes in. They lose people like. They bring Trippier in. Felipe Luis was essential to their system at one point, and they recovered from that really easily. Lost Diego Godin. Don't look too bad in centre backs. Lost Courtois. You see Oblak. I lost De Gea, then Courtois, then Oblak.
Rodri
goes.
I think their recruitment is fantastic because
Kondogbia comes in. They just have a good way.
But now they need to win because it's all well and good again.
And they've had attrition so much in terms of strikers, and they always just find a way to get someone else that works out. That scores.
So I don't know. They have. I don't know what it is about them and their strikers, but if you look at the ranks and you look at their nines, they maybe have one of the, some of the best nines ever. Aguero was there, played
Falcao, Costa, David Villa.
Had a lot of great nines, but
Torres. Awesome. What do we think? Lastly, to wrap it up, League One.
My man Poch was gonna
won a title.
After
2 games.
Yeah, after 18 days. But PSG will win the league. PSG will win the league still.
Yeah. I won't say PSG win the league, but I'm going to go with, just for the sake of being, a different guy, I'm going to go with Lyon. I really like the way they are playing now, and I think they have a good crop of young players, and I think PSG have been a bit inconsistent. Like, they are finally consistent now with Poch and everything, and it's the League One. Obviously, the Uber Eats League, they're always going to get their results, but I think Lyon have a shot at this for the first time in a while.
It'll be closer.
So,
It'll be closer than usual years. Like
correct.
PSG are actually dropping a lot more points than you would expect, and Lyon might get lucky if PSG go deep in Champions League. They might, yeah, it might really open things up for them because again they won like 1 million League Ones in a row, so they might actually rest players, which might give Lyon a chance.
Correct.
But again, I
And it's
think
interesting because you see Leon with the transfer for Dembele, with Awa having so much interest. That team is about to break up again.
Yeah.
break up.
This
This
is
is
the
their
two things if they're trying to avoid.
Memphis as well. Memphis was on the verge of moving to Barca. Might still
Still
get that
could
move.
be. Yeah. The same way kind of Lille broke up a few seasons ago when they had that good system going.
Kudos to Lille though. They're joint first now as well. So
and they'll come up in our stepping stone segment when we do that. But yeah, that is basically the wrap up of all the other leagues and people pushing for top honors. Any thoughts, guys, on anything?
No, just looking forward to the midweek games. Looking forward to the Leicester Chelsea game especially, and seeing how United do against the revitalized Fulham after a very difficult game like today, to see if they can push on the game, because that'll be another proof, like more proof that they're moving on, because you get the draw, then you win another game, then they've got Sheffield United after that, win another game, then you really show me that okay, these guys are serious.
Chandler, any thoughts?
No, I was going to say kind of like I said, very curious to see how the table shapes up in the next couple of weeks, especially top four race. Keep on going up and down. City now second, I think, with their results, and Leicester in there as well.
As far as I'm concerned, City are first.
Technically, I mean, with the game in hand, you can't say game in hand, they're technically first. So it's going to be a very, very interesting couple of days, and we'll see next week.
Amazing. So, as usual, does anyone of you want to do it?
I don't even know the lyrics.
The lyrics.
The lyrics.
So please give us your lyrics.
So I said, leave agendas at the door. Whenever you analyze the beautiful game, share your opinions on social media or do a topical deep dive. You need to ask yourself, ladies and gentlemen, or whoever's watching, do I really know ball? Thank you very much for being with us today. See you soon. Bye.